Hey guys, so one of the problems that I see with a lot of students when they start writing research papers is they don't really know how to use quotes well. There's a couple really important things to think about when you're using quotes. First of all, you don't want to use a lot of them. They're kind of like the salt on a dish. You want to just sprinkle a couple in there. In general, readers don't really like to read quotes. You only want to use them if they're really necessary or you couldn't write it better yourself, or if they say something really extreme that you want to prove that somebody else wrote it. In general, you just want to use summaries or paraphrases because that gets a lot of information in, but it still sounds like you. When you do want to use a quotation, there's another important trick that you need to know. We want to build a quote sandwich. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to establish the context for the quote. So where is it coming from? Why are we using it, etc. Then we put the quote in. Now, one of the most important things that all students make a mistake with is that they try to just use quotation, quote, quotation period, and have a quote be a sentence on its own, which cannot be the case. A quote can't just hang out on its own. I call that a quote bomb. And then, so you have to build it into your sentence structure. And then finally, you have to explain the quote. You can't just put a quote in and then move on to the next paragraph. You've got to tell us how it connects to your thesis statement. So I'm going to try to give you a little example here. So I'm just using this article. I just copied it, the HTML, from this source over in EBSCOhost, Master File Premier, and I just copied it in for the sake of this video. And so let's say I'm writing my research paper on bicycling and mental health. So one of the things that this article talks about is the fact that cyclists get stressed and then they have a hard time, riding their bike really well. And so it's kind of counterintuitive. So I'm going to start by, just writing a paragraph. So maybe it'll sound something like this. All right, so what I've done in these two sentences is I've set up my quote. And so what I want to do is now I want to put the quotation in. And remember, I've got to build it in so that it sounds like part of my sentence. So I'm going to write, Jaeger describes her morning routine as... Okay, so that quote just came from here. I didn't use all of it. Notice that I just used this one little sentence. And then I'm going to put in my end quotation. And then because I've used her name here, in MLA style, all I need to do is include the page number. Now, a lot of students, when they see this citation from EBSCOhost, they're like, oh, there's no page number because it's online. But that's wrong. The page number is right here. This is actually page 81. So I can just put in that 81, period at the end. Then I can't just leave it there. I've got to explain how it relates to my thesis statement. So I want to think about, all right, so I think cycling reduces stress, but it can also cause stress. So, I take a look at my source and sort of think about, how does this relate? And I might write something like, All right, so I've finished my paragraph here. Notice that I created some context for the quotation. I built the quote so that it is part of my sentence. Now, if you guys include quotes that are just start quote, end quote, I am going to flag them and I'm not going to count them. You've dropped a quote bomb, so don't do it. Notice that I've got the author's last name and the page number in here. And then notice how I tried to connect the writing in here with my thesis. I want to make it all connect back to what I'm writing about. Don't make the reader guess. You want to give them as much as you can to help make that argument work. So this is how quotes should go into your paper. Remember that quotations need to be short, they need to be really valuable, and they need to be something that wouldn't just be better if you summarized or paraphrased. So don't try to fill up your paper with a bunch of quotes. The reader really wants to read what you've got to say. If you've got any questions, as always, let me know. Thank you.